"I can make your daughter walk again," said the homeless boy. The millionaire was frozen in shock. The camera opens on a tight shot of expensive Italian shoes, soaked in rain. Heavy droplets splash against the marble pavement outside a luxury private hospital. A thunderclap cracks the sky as a trembling hand clenches the steering wheel of a sleek black car. Inside, a man in a designer suit sits motionless, his face pale, jaw tight, eyes bloodshot with fury and despair. He doesn't speak. He only breathes, short, sharp gasps. His phone buzzes on the passenger seat, the name flashing repeatedly, Veronica, director. But he doesn't answer. He can't. His mind is replaying a single sentence over and over again, something the doctor told him just 5 minutes ago. "I'm sorry, but your daughter will never walk again. It's permanent." The words echo in his skull like a cruel joke from the universe. He closes his eyes and strikes his chest with his fist. Once, twice, 3 times. Not out of guilt, not even from grief, from rage. Because all the millions he had spent a lifetime collecting, sacrificing love, time, and even morality, had been useless. Not even enough to save his little girl. With a violent jerk, he starts the car, tires screeching against the wet pavement. The city blurs around him into streaks of cold light. He drives with no destination, ignoring signs, forgetting lanes. Just running. From himself. From reality. From that hospital room where his 9-year-old daughter now stared at the ceiling like her body no longer belonged to her. Down a dark, forgotten avenue lined with decaying buildings and faded graffiti, he speeds through the storm, until he slams the brakes. There, right in front of the car, stand a boy, barefoot, drenched, thin as a shadow, clothes torn, body shaking from the cold. And yet, his face was a strange calm. He couldn't be more than 10 years old, but something in his eyes makes him look ancient, like he's been walking these streets for centuries. The millionaire, furious, throws open the car door. The sound of it echoes through the empty street. "Are you insane, kid? You want to die?" But the boy doesn't move. He just looks at him. And then, in a soft, steady voice, as if he already knew this moment was coming, he says, "I can make your daughter walk again." Silence. Only the rain speaks now. The millionaire blinks. He doesn't understand. He can't understand. Has the world lost its mind? "What? What did you just say?" he demands, his tone now a blend of confusion and disdain. The boy steps forward, soaked feet leaving watery prints on the pavement. She doesn't need doctors. She just needs someone who remembers how to walk. From the inside, a bitter laugh bursts from the man's chest, echoing between the cracked walls of the alley. "You? A beggar who probably hasn't eaten in days. You're going to cure my daughter? Are you joking?" But even as he mocks him, he can't stop looking into the boy's eyes. There's no arrogance, no fear, only a peace so unsettling, so out of place, that it makes him take a step back without realizing it. "Who are you?" he finally asks, voice softer now. The boy simply replies with one last sentence as he turns and begins to walk into the shadows. "I'm not the one who matters, but you still have a choice to make." And just like that, he disappears into the alley's darkness, leaving the millionaire soaked, alone, confused, and with something unfamiliar pulsing in his chest. A question he can't silence. What if he's telling the truth? The next morning arrives, but it doesn't feel like a new day. The sky is still heavy, gray, as if it, too, hadn't slept. Inside the penthouse apartment, overlooking the city, silence dominates. Not the peaceful kind. No, this is the kind of silence that creeps into every corner, that strangles the air and makes even the clocks afraid to tick. The millionaire stands by the window, holding a glass of untouched whiskey, watching the skyline like it holds some kind of answer. He hasn't changed clothes. The scent of rain still clings to his jacket. His eyes hollow. He's been up all night, unable to forget the boy's words. "I can make your daughter walk again." It was absurd, insane, impossible. And yet, he turns to look at the hallway, where a soft light seeps through the partially open door of a bedroom. Slowly, he walks over and pushes it open. Inside, the room is quiet, too quiet. A little girl, no older than 9, sits in a wheelchair by the window, her head resting against the glass. Her golden hair is neatly brushed, her small hands folded in her lap, her legs motionless. She doesn't even turn when he enters. "Sweetheart," he says, barely above a whisper. She doesn't answer. He walks over, kneels beside her, and gently places a hand on her arm. "How are you feeling today?" Still, no answer. Just the soft hum of the city beyond the glass. Then, finally she speaks. "Did the doctors give up on me? Or did you?" The words hit him like a punch to the chest. He opens his mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. His throat tightens. She finally turns to look at him, those bright, blue eyes now dimmed by disappointment. "It's okay. I just wanted to know." And she turns back to the window. He rises, shaken, and walks out of the room. The weight of her words pressing down on him harder than any boardroom battle or business betrayal ever had. Downstairs, in his grand, spotless kitchen, where marble countertops gleam and every surface looks like it's never been used, he pours a second glass of whiskey. He stares at it for a long moment. Then he picks up his phone. He scrolls through the endless list of contacts: doctors, specialists, CEOs, therapists, surgeons, miracle workers for hire. He had already spoken to them all. None could help. They all said the same thing. It's permanent. His thumb hovers over the screen, then stops. He searches something he's never typed before. Homeless child healer. Nothing. Of course not. What was he expecting? But then, something odd. An old article, dated years ago. The photo is grainy. A boy, standing barefoot in the rain, staring at the camera with a strange intensity. The headline reads, "Mysterious child reportedly heals old woman in Market Square. Witnesses baffled." He clicks on it. The page won't load. Site no longer exists. But he saw the picture, and it was him. The same eyes. The same calm. He drops the phone. His heart pounds. Not with fear, with something else. Hope. He grabs his coat and storms out of the apartment, ignoring the confused stares of his assistant and the driver who barely has time to open the door. He has no plan, no destination, but he knows where he needs to start. Back in that alley. Back where it all began. Back to the boy who shouldn't exist, but somehow does. The black luxury car slices through the streets like a predator, its engine growling low as it makes its way to the edge of the city, an area the millionaire had spent his entire life avoiding. Cracked sidewalks, faded signs, walls crying with mildew and time. This was the part of the city that didn't exist on his maps. Forgotten, abandoned, left behind by people like him. But today, he wasn't a man above the city. Today, he was just a father chasing a ghost. He parks on a corner he vaguely remembers. The same alley, the same graffiti, but emptier, wetter, as if the boy's presence had been a dream shaped by the storm. He steps out. The air here smells different, like metal, oil, and something else like sadness soaked into concrete. "Hey," he shouts, his voice echoing off the narrow buildings. "Niño, ¿dónde estás?" No answer, just a rustle. A cat darts across the alley, spooking him. He continues deeper into the shadows, his shoes now splashing in puddles he would have once cursed for touching his soles. He finds a blanket, rolled up near a trash bin. A paper cup, half a sandwich. Someone had been here. Recently. "If you're here, I need to talk to you," he says aloud, forcing his voice to steady. "Please." He waits. Nothing. Then, just as he turns to leave, he hears it. A whisper. "You came." He whips around. The boy is there, standing calmly by the wall, arms at his sides, eyes watching him like before. The man stares, speechless for a second, then finds his voice. "Who are you? What do you want from me? What did you mean last night?" The boy doesn't move. "Your daughter is not broken," he says quietly, "but you are." The words strike deeper than they should. The man takes a step forward. "Don't play games with me." "I'm not," the boy replies. "You asked for help. I'm offering it. You said you could make her walk again. I can." Silence. Rain begins again, soft at first. "Ow." The boy walks over to a patch of dry wall and kneels, drawing something in the dirt. A circle. Symbols. Art's connecting them. The millionaire watches, unblinking. What is this? Some kind of trick? Are you some runaway child pretending to be a prophet for attention? The boy finishes the circle and looks up. "Do you want logic? Or do you want your daughter to walk?" The man hesitates. "I don't believe in magic." The boy's eyes narrow, but not with anger. With sadness. You believe in money, in power, in control, and yet none of those things could save her. The millionaire looks away. The boy continues. This isn't about belief. It's about surrender. The word feels like poison in his mouth. Surrender to what? To what you've spent your life ignoring. The air feels thicker now, heavy with meaning. The alley, once just bricks and grime, now feels sacred, like something ancient was watching. Then, the boy speaks again. Bring her here. Tomorrow night. Alone. And she must be willing. Willing to do what? The boy tilts his head. To let go of you. And with that, he walks away, turning the corner and vanishing once more, leaving the man alone in the alley, drenched again, heart pounding, mouth dry. He stares at the circle drawn on the wall. It pulses. Just once. Or maybe that was his imagination. Maybe. That night, the storm returned, but it wasn't the rain that kept him awake. It was the weight of those final words. She must be willing to let go of you. He lay in bed, staring at the ornate ceiling of his penthouse, a ceiling he'd paid millions to design. And yet, for the first time, it felt like it was pressing down on him, suffocating. Each chandelier crystal sparkled like an accusation, like all the things he bought instead of time, instead of memories, instead of love. He had built empires, crushed competitors, outwitted the smartest men in the world. But here he was, brought to his knees by a child with no shoes and a strange gaze. At 3:12 a.m., unable to take the silence, he walked down the hallway toward her room. He opened the door slowly. She was awake, staring at the ceiling, just like him. You're not sleeping, he said softly, almost afraid to interrupt her thoughts. Neither are you, she answered, her voice calm, but not cold. He stepped inside and sat on the edge of her bed. I saw him again. The boy. She turned her head. Her eyes lit up, not with joy, but curiosity. The one you mentioned yesterday. He nodded. He said something strange. Something about healing. About you. She didn't flinch. Didn't laugh. Didn't doubt. She just asked, do you believe him? He was stunned by her question. Not as it makes sense, not as it's safe, not are you sure. Just, do you believe? He exhaled. I don't know. I want to. Silence again. The only sound was the ticking of the clock above the window. Then, she spoke again. When you were gone, I dreamed of walking. Not running. Not dancing. Just walking. Her voice trembled slightly. It was so real, Daddy. I could feel the ground under my feet, the air on my face. I was holding someone's hand, but I couldn't see who it was. She looked at him now. Maybe it was him. He swallowed hard. She reached out her small hand, placing it gently over his. I want to try. His throat burned. It might not be safe. Neither is hope, she whispered, but we need it anyway. He nodded. A tear slid silently down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. For the first time in a long time, he let it fall. The next day passed in slow motion. He cleared his schedule, ignored emails, canceled meetings. His assistant thought he was having a breakdown. Maybe he was. By the time night fell, he had packed a blanket, an umbrella, and a flashlight. And one last thing, her favorite stuffed bear, worn out and loved beyond words. As the car rolled through the dim city streets once more, his daughter sat beside him in silence, wrapped in a thick coat, eyes wide and unblinking. He didn't know what would happen, didn't know what he believed. But as they turned onto that same broken street and saw the faint glow of candlelight flickering from deep inside the alley, he knew there was no turning back. The alley looked different tonight. There were no sirens in the distance, no drifting conversations, no rumble of the city humming in the background. It was as if this one small corner of the world had been peeled away from reality, wrapped in a stillness that didn't belong to any known place or time. He parked the car further away this time, unsure why, perhaps out of instinct, perhaps out of fear. He opened the door and stepped out into the chilled air, walking to the passenger side. Slowly, carefully, he unbuckled his daughter and lifted her into his arms. She didn't speak. She only held her bear tightly against her chest, her tiny fingers gripping its ears. They moved forward together, the glow of the candles guiding their way. And then, just like before, the boy appeared. But this time, he wasn't alone. Figures stood behind him, old, young, silent, eyes gleaming in the shadows. Men with hollow cheeks, Women with torn scarves. Children with empty bellies. Dozens of them, all barefoot, all watching. The millionaire's pulse quickened. He wanted to pull his daughter closer, to protect her, to run. But the boy raised a hand, and with that one simple gesture, the fear didn't disappear, but it softened. He stepped forward. "You came," the boy said, as if surprised, and yet not. "I did," the man replied, his voice steadying. "But if this is some kind of ritual or spectacle—" "It's none of that," the boy interrupted. "It's not about you." He looked down at the girl in his arms. "It's about her." The millionaire hesitated, then knelt down and gently placed her into the wheelchair again. She looked up at the boy, her voice small but clear. "I'm ready." The boy nodded once. Then he turned and stepped into the alley, motioning for them to follow. They moved as one, deeper and deeper into the twisting corridor of bricks and shadows, until they reached an open space. It looked like an old courtyard, long forgotten, choked by weeds and broken walls. But in the center, a stone circle had been meticulously cleared, its lines drawn with salt, herbs, and something darker, something that shimmered faintly under the candlelight. The boy stepped into the circle, then turned toward the girl. "You must come here alone," he said. The millionaire protested immediately. "No, she's a child. You don't expect me to." But the girl touched his arm. "It's okay, Daddy." He looked at her, at those clear, brave eyes. Then, reluctantly, he released the handles of the chair. The boy walked over, leaned down, and whispered something in her ear. She nodded, and then, before the millionaire could say anything else, she rose, stood, walked, not with magic, not with force, but slowly, shakily, one foot in front of the other. Gasps filled the air. The people surrounding the courtyard stepped forward, eyes wide. Some were crying, some were kneeling. The millionaire stumbled back, clutching his chest. His daughter, his little girl who had not stood in months, was walking toward the circle, toward the boy. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. She crossed the edge of the circle and took the boy's hand. He held hers gently, like it was glass. Then he looked up, directly at the millionaire, and his voice, calm and sharp, echoed through the courtyard. "This is not the end. This is only the beginning." And with that, the candles flickered violently and went out. Darkness swallowed the courtyard in an instant. No moon, no streetlights, no sound, only the rapid heartbeat of a father, pounding like war drums in his ears. "Lucille," he shouted, standing up so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. "Donde estás?" Silence. Then a breath, a whisper, a voice, not his daughter's. "You must not follow." It was the boy, somewhere nearby, hidden in the shadows. "What have you done?" The millionaire roared. "Where is my daughter?" A flicker of light appeared. One candle, then two, then 10. All around the courtyard, the crowd had lit small flames, each one revealing a face watching him not with anger or reverence, but with something far worse. Pity. He turned wildly, searching for her. She was no longer in the center, no longer beside the boy. Only the wheelchair remained, empty, abandoned, still warm. He ran forward, grabbing it, his hands trembling. "Where is she?" he bellowed. The boy appeared behind him, calm as ever, eyes glowing faintly with something that defied reason. "She is where you cannot reach her." "Not yet." "What does that mean?" The boy looked down at the wheelchair, then back up. "You asked for a miracle, but miracles demand something in return." The millionaire's face twisted with rage. "Take my money, my company, my life, whatever you want. Just bring her back." The boy tilted his head. "She hasn't gone anywhere, but she no longer belongs to your world." He couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. He felt like the air was being pulled out of the night itself. What are you?" The boy turned and walked toward the circle again. The salt had scattered. The symbols had vanished. The magic, if that's what it was, had receded. But the people remained, watching, waiting. The boy paused, and without turning back, spoke once more. "Go home. She'll return to you when you're ready." Then he was gone. The boy, the people, the lights, everything. The millionaire stood alone in the courtyard, clutching the cold, empty wheelchair like it was a lifeline in a sea of madness. He didn't sleep that night, didn't eat, didn't move. He just sat beside the chair, watching the horizon, waiting for dawn, or for a sign. And then the call came. His driver panicked. "Sir, you need to come home. Now, it's your daughter." His blood froze. "What about her?" The driver's voice cracked. She's here. Standing. Waiting for you." The chair clattered to the ground as the man ran, faster than he ever had before. Toward home. Toward the impossible. Toward a truth he hadn't earned. Yet, he burst into the penthouse like a madman. The heavy oak door slammed against the wall, startling the staff who were already gathered in stunned silence. His assistant dropped her coffee cup. The housekeeper covered her mouth. And there, in the center of it all, stood the miracle. Lucia, on her feet, in her pajamas, her bare toes curled slightly against the marble floor, like she was still adjusting to the sensation of weight. But she was upright, tall, glowing, alive. The millionaire froze in place. His breath caught. His knees buckled. "Lissa." She turned to him slowly, and there, in those same soft blue eyes, he saw something different. Something wiser. Something not entirely hers. She smiled. Not a child's smile. Not fully. "I told you I dreamed about walking," she said. He took a step forward, hesitant, as if she might vanish if he moved too quickly. "How?" She looked around at the others in the room, at their wide eyes, their fear masked as reverence. "I'm tired," she said simply, her voice as calm as still water. "Can I go to my room?" He nodded, still speechless, and watched as she turned and walked toward the hallway. No limp, no falter, each step like she had never forgotten. When she was out of sight, the house exploded in questions. "Como es posable? Es real? La mimosa la prensa?" He silenced them all with a raised hand. Then, quietly, he said, "No hay prensa. No hay explication. Nadie habla de esto." His voice trembled with something between awe and terror, because deep down he knew this was no ordinary healing. That night, long after the household had gone to sleep and Lucia lay tucked in a bed like any other little girl, he sat in his office, scrolling again, trying to find him. The boy. The article was gone. So was the photo. Even the alley where it happened looked different on satellite view, like it had never existed. He tried searching forums, deep web threads, conspiracy sites. Eventually, he stumbled on something obscure, an archived thread. A user with no photo, no profile, who posted only once. "Some children are not born. They appear. Where hope has been extinguished. They don't fix what's broken. They reveal what was hidden." He read it over and over. The boy had said something similar. "She's not broken. But you are." And now, she was healed. So why did he feel more shattered than ever? He stood and walked to Lucia's room. The door was ajar. He peeked inside. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. Not sleeping. "No puedes dormir?" he asked gently. She turned her head. "He's still with me." He froze. "Quien?" She smiled. Again, that not quite childlike smile. "You'll see soon." Then she lay down, turned her face to the pillow, and said no more. He closed the door slowly. The hallway stretched before him like a tunnel. Endless. Cold. For the first time in his life, the man who had never feared anything was afraid to be alone. The days that followed were filled with confusion, awe, and a silence too sharp to be peaceful. Lucia continued walking, talking, laughing, but she was different. Not in the way one would expect from a girl who had just been handed back her legs after months of paralysis. No, this wasn't excitement. This wasn't joy. This was stillness. Like something inside her had settled permanently into silence, as if she knew things she couldn't explain. Her footsteps no longer made noise on the marble floors. Her presence didn't feel like that of a child anymore. Even the house staff avoided her room now, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Like she had become untouchable. The millionaire watched her constantly. He canceled every meeting, missed every call. His empire could crumble, and he wouldn't care. The only thing that mattered now was understanding what had happened. Because deep inside, he felt it. The miracle wasn't free. Something had been exchanged, and he still didn't know what. One night, after dinner, he approached her. She was sitting on the rooftop, legs crossed, watching the city lights. "You shouldn't be up here alone," he said softly. She looked over her shoulder and smiled. "You used to say that to Mom." He blinked. "You remember that?" She nodded. "I remember everything now." He moved closer, sat beside her. The wind carried the scent of the city. Gasoline, neon, rain in the distance. Lucia, he began. Who was that boy? She didn't answer right away. Was he an angel? He asked. A spirit? A prophet? She turned to him slowly. He was someone who listens when no one else does. Listens to what? She hesitated. To the parts of us that we bury. He stared at her. She wasn't speaking like a 9-year-old. And why did he help us? Lucia's gaze drifted to the stars. Because I asked him to. You what? She looked back at him. When I was in the hospital. Every night. I called out. Not with words, but with my heart. I begged. Not to walk. Not to live. I begged for you to see me. The words struck like ice. Lisa, you were never there, she said calmly, but not cruelly. You gave me nurses, devices, toys, but never your hand. Tears welled in his eyes. I didn't know how. I know, she said, and touched his hand gently. That's why he came. He covered his face, ashamed. Everything inside him, the pride, the power, the money, it meant nothing here. She continued. He offered to heal me, but only if I helped heal you. He looked up sharply. Heal me? She nodded. You're the one who forgot how to walk. He shook his head. I don't understand. She stood. You will. And without another word, she walked back inside, her bare feet silent on the cold tile. He remained on the rooftop, broken open, staring at the star she had just been watching. What had she meant? What was she becoming? And more importantly, what was he turning into? That night, sleep refused to visit him. He wandered the halls like a ghost, pausing at every photo on the wall, smiling faces frozen in time, vacations he barely remembered, birthdays he showed up to halfway through. All of it now fell hollow, curated, like he had tried to buy the illusion of fatherhood. And Lucia had simply played along until her body betrayed her, or until he did. At 3 a.m., he stood outside her door. He considered knocking, but something in him hesitated. Then he heard it, a whisper, two voices inside, Lucia's and someone else's. He pushed the door open, slowly, carefully. Lucia sat upright in bed, eyes closed, lips moving. Across the room, near the window, stood the boy, exactly as before, no older, no younger, barefoot, still soaked from the night they met. He didn't even turn when the door creaked. The millionaire felt his chest tighten. He whispered. The boy finally looked at him. Calm, unthreatened. She's safe, he said. What are you doing to her? Preparing her. For what? The boy stepped aside. Lucia's eyes opened, but they weren't quite hers. They held something ancient, infinite. She spoke, and her voice had a strange echo. Not all who are healed remain the same. When something broken is put back together, it remembers the cracks. He stepped back. What does that mean? What's happening to her? The boy answered gently. She made a promise. To give what she was given. To light others the way she was shown. She's a child. She was, the boy said. The words sliced through the room like wind. Lucia turned her head toward her father. I have to go soon. Go. He nearly shouted. No. No. You're not going anywhere. You just got better. We were supposed to start over. Build new life. I'll take us away. We'll go somewhere no one knows us. We'll start fresh, just the two of us. She smiled sadly. You're still trying to control what doesn't belong to you. The boy looked at him with pity. This is what surrender looks like. He couldn't take it anymore. He lunged forward, toward the boy, but his arms passed through him like mist. The room shimmered. Time fell thin. He fell to his knees. Please, he begged, tears now running freely. Take everything. But not her. Not again. The boy kneeled beside him. It's not about losing her. It's about becoming someone she doesn't have to carry anymore. And then, he was gone. Lucia blinked. Her body sagged slightly, as if whatever force had filled her had departed. She looked tired now. Small. Real. But she was still standing. Still whole. She walked toward him, slowly, and placed a hand on his face. You still don't see it, but you will. He grabbed her hand, kissed it, held it to his chest. I'm not ready. You never were. And with that, she turned, climbed into bed, and closed her eyes. As if nothing had happened. As if everything had. The following days moved like a slow dream stitched together by uncertainty. Lucia behaved like any other child. She ate, she painted, She watched cartoons. But her presence was different. Even the way she held her spoon or turned the pages of a book felt intentional. Like every movement was part of something larger she understood, but no one else did. And the millionaire, he watched her. Every second, he barely left the house. His eyes had lost their sharpness. That predator-like focus he once wore like armor in boardrooms and negotiations. Now, he was a man unmoored. Not by fear, but by a strange kind of awakening he didn't ask for and didn't know how to navigate. He wanted to go back to before. Back to understanding the world. Back when the rules made sense. Money, status, logic. But now, all of that felt like plastic coins in a divine game he never knew he was playing. On the fourth day, something changed. Lucia asked to go for a walk. Through the city. Just us, she said. No security. No car. He hesitated. It's not safe. She tilted her head. It's never been. So they walked. She in her favorite yellow coat. He in a scarf he hadn't worn in years. They passed street performers, fruit vendors, people rushing through their lives. No one noticed them. No one stopped. For the first time in his life, he was invisible, and it felt like freedom. Then, as they crossed a narrow street near the old quarter, Lucia stopped. There, she pointed. An alley. The same one. But it looked different. Abandoned. Dry. No candle wax. No circle. No people. Just bricks and silence. It's not there anymore, he said. She smiled. It never was. He looked at her. Then what was it? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked into the alley and knelt by a wall. She pulled something from her pocket, a piece of chalk, and began to draw. A circle, then symbols, then lines connecting them. His blood ran cold. Lissa. She looked up at him, the chalk now glowing faintly in the shadows. Someone else is calling now. No, no, you don't have to do this again. Whatever this is, it's over. She stood slowly. It doesn't end. It passes on. She walked over to him and placed the chalk in his hand. You carry it now. He stared at it. It burned cold. I don't know how. She smiled. You will, when someone needs you enough. The symbols on the wall began to fade, one by one, dissolving into the air like smoke. She turned and began walking out of the alley. He followed. Behind him, the last of the chalk disappeared, as if nothing had ever been written at all. That night, the city fell into one of those rare, breathless silences. No sirens, no wind, just a heavy, invisible pause, as if the world itself was waiting for something to happen. He couldn't sleep. Lucia had gone to bed early, humming a tune he didn't recognize, a lullaby in a language he was certain she'd never learned. He watched from the hallway as she drifted off, a soft smile still playing on her lips, the moonlight casting silver shadows across her cheeks. He stood there long after she'd closed her eyes, feeling like a man outside of time, watching a child who had somehow stepped into something far beyond childhood. Back in his office, the chalk sat on the table. He hadn't told anyone about it, hadn't touched it again. It wasn't that he feared it. He feared what it represented. A calling. Responsibility. Something he had never wanted and had never imagined was real. He poured a drink, sat in his leather chair, and stared at it for a long time. Then his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Static. Then a voice. Weak. Breathless. I don't know why, but someone told me to call this number. His heart skipped. Who is this? He asked. The voice cracked. I'm at the hospital. My son. They said he won't make it. But a boy. He came to me, and he whispered your name. His blood turned to ice. What boy? He disappeared. I thought I was hallucinating. But he said, he knows the way now. Ask him. Silence. The chalk on the table seemed to hum, just faintly. The man closed his eyes. It was happening. The torch was passing. He looked around his office. Walls lined with certificates, trophies, paintings. None of it mattered anymore. Not in this world. Not in that one. He stood, slowly, picked up the chalk, and in the silence of the night, he began to draw on the polished marble floor. A circle. Symbols. Lines. Each stroke guided by something beyond memory. Something planted deep within him. He didn't question it. Didn't resist. It wasn't faith. It was something deeper. A surrender. And just as he finished the last line, he heard footsteps. Tiny, familiar ones. Lucia stood in the doorway. She said nothing, Just watched. And then she nodded, as if to say, yes. This is what comes next. He looked down at the glowing circle beneath his feet. This wasn't science. This wasn't madness. This was truth, wearing a mask the world had forgotten how to see. The moment the final symbol touched the floor, a subtle tremor rippled through the room. Not violent, more like a shift in the atmosphere. The air grew denser, charged, vibrating softly, as if the walls were listening. The millionaire stood motionless in the center of the glowing circle, breathing deeply, eyes wide. Not from fear this time, but from awe. Lucia remained at the doorway, still as stone. Then a sound, faint, like a heartbeat, but not his. The chalk markings pulsed with light, once, twice, before dimming into a soft glow. And then, silence again. He waited, but nothing else happened. No visions, no voices, no boy. Just a floor full of ancient lines and a stillness too perfect to be random. It's not for now, Lucia said, stepping into the room. He turned to her, confused. What do you mean? She walked to the edge of the circle, careful not to step inside. You answered the call, but not every call is urgent. Sometimes, it's just to make sure you're listening. He frowned. But the woman, the one who called, what about her son? Lucia looked up at him, her expression unreadable. You'll find her. When it's time. She sat on the floor beside the circle and pulled her knees to her chest. I used to think miracles happened in a flash, like thunder. But most of the time, they move like roots under the ground. You don't see them until the tree starts to grow. He lowered himself beside her, resting his hands on his lap. You sound like someone I don't know. She gave a faint smile. Maybe I'm still me. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm both. They sat in silence. Minutes passed. Then she turned her head slightly. Do you remember when Mom died? His body tensed. He nodded. You didn't cry, she said, not in front of me. He looked down. I couldn't. I didn't know how. She nodded slowly. That's when the boy first appeared. Not to you. To me. His heart stopped. What? He came to my room. I thought it was a dream. He didn't speak. Just sat by my bed. Every night. Until I stopped having nightmares. He stared at her. She continued. He said I had something important inside me. That I would remember it one day. And that I wouldn't be alone when I did. Tears welled in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? She shrugged. Would you have listened? He exhaled sharply. She wasn't accusing. She was right. The man who used to be untouchable was now unraveling thread by thread in front of a child who had once needed him, and now seemed stronger than him in every way. I'm afraid, he whispered. She looked at him with such deep, ancient tenderness that it nearly broke him. That means you're ready. The lights flickered once. Then everything returned to normal, as if the night hadn't just been around something sacred. But he knew better. He had stepped through something invisible, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning dawned in golden silence. Sunlight spilled across the penthouse windows like it was touching the world for the first time. The storm clouds that had haunted the city for weeks had vanished, leaving behind skies so blue they looked painted. But inside the apartment, it was still. Lucia was already awake, sitting at the kitchen counter, sipping warm milk, her legs swinging freely beneath the tall stool, as if walking had never been taken from her at all. He entered slowly, no longer dressed in fine suits or gold watches. Today, he wore simple clothes. His expression was calm, but marked with something that hadn't been there before. Humility. He sat beside her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then he spoke. I think I'm ready. Lucia smiled, not like a child, but like someone who had been waiting for him to say those words for a very long time. Then it's time we go. Go where? She didn't answer with words. She slid a folded paper across the counter. He opened it. An address. A place he hadn't been in decades. An old district, the one where he grew up. Where he used to dream before he learned how to bury dreams with ambition. Someone there needs you, she said, the way I needed you. He looked at the paper. And you. She paused. I'll be there when I'm needed. He understood. This wasn't about him guiding her anymore. This was about her guiding the world. They left the penthouse that morning. No security, no entourage. Just the two of them walking side by side through the city as it began to awaken. People passed them without a second glance, unaware that miracles had walked this same path just days before. When they reached the address, It was a crumbling shelter, a place for forgotten people. The sign was falling, the walls cracked, but inside someone was crying. A young mother, holding a baby who wasn't breathing. Lucia stepped back. The millionaire stepped forward. He knelt beside the woman, who looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "Please," she begged. "I don't know what else to do." He reached in his coat pocket. The chalk was still there, warm, waiting. Without thinking, without hesitation, he drew a small circle on the cold concrete floor. The mother watched, sobbing, desperate. And then the baby gasped. A breath, a whimper, a cry. Life. The woman fell to the floor, holding her child tightly, whispering thank yous through her tears. He stood there, stunned, shaking, as the moment wrapped itself around him. Behind him, Lucia smiled. She didn't need to speak. He had done it. Not just the miracle, the surrender. He turned around, but Lucia was gone, vanished into the morning light. No trace, no goodbye, only the faintest sound of bare feet on pavement fading into the distance. He closed his eyes, let the sunlight touch his face, and whispered, "Thank you." Not to the boy, not to Lucia, to whatever force had cracked open his soul and poured something sacred inside. Because now he understood. Miracles were never about fixing. They were about remembering. And he had finally remembered how to walk. Y así termina esta historia. Una historia sobre la fe, la rendición, el amor y lo invisible que nos transforma. Porque a veces los milagros no llegan con truenos. Llegan con un susurro. Con unos ojos tranquilos. Con una mano extendida, and el momento exacto. ¿Y tú? ¿Crees que los milagros no existen? Déjanos tu opinión en los comentarios. ¿Y cuéntanos? ¿Desde qué peso ciudad estás viendo este video? Queremos saber hasta donde llegan estas historias que marcan el alma. No olvides suscribir al canal y activar la campanita, porque hay muchas más historias por contar. Nos vemos en la próxima.